How's it going, everybody? This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And today I am talking to Adam Lawson, who is movie, TV, comic book background. But right now we are talking, or today, we are going to be talking about the Mad Dog Morgan comic that he is, you co-created and wrote.
That's right. Yeah. So I always say I co-create it because the artist is doing so much of the real work, right? And so Maxie Dallow is my artist on it, and I had a co-writer work with me on the script a couple years ago to develop it out. Though most of my comics I write on my own and actually letter them as well too, but this one, just at the time I was so swamped with filming, and I produced television and also TV commercials, and so I wasn't able to do it fully myself. But Mad Dog Morgan is all my heart, right? It's all everything that's in my heart, right? It's you said the Shining meets The Wrestler. This is indie wrestling meets a blood-drenched haunted house. And Omar, this kind of comes from me. Did you ever see that documentary Behind the Mask years ago?
You mean the movie Behind the Mask? Like the movie?
Yeah. It's a documentary. It's about wrestlers. It wasn't.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I know what you're talking about.
It was the wrestler documentary. You're like, Adam, this is the wrestler documentary. And you remember there's this interview with Jake the Snake. And I don't know how old you are, Omar. He might be a bit before your time, but he was prime for me when I was a kid. And
I like Jake the Snake. I had a toy of him, and I was a big fan of that era of wrestling. But go on.
Amazing. And Omar, he's in this interview, and somebody starts talking. The interviewer asks him a question about his dad and his home life, and he starts breaking down crying, right? And here's this man who's this massive persona in the ring, right? But in tears because he never got to make his dad proud of him, and his dad passed before he ever got that, and that the weight of that, and that always sat with me, Omar. That feeling of like, what would it be to be that wrestler, to be a Jake the Snake, but you never made it to the big arena. Dad passed. You never got to make him proud of you. And that sort of weight, that sort of was the impetus for Mad Dog Morgan. That's where the story started to churn, was what would be that. And I always love the comic book format for everything, particularly for anything wrestling based, because wrestling and like superheroes and comics feel like they're just best friends because they're both bigger than life, right? They're over the top. A suplex in a real fight is not a very realistic approach, but it sure is great in the ring. And so that's like, anyway, so that's what sort of began birthing this story and bringing this into the comic book world.
So that documentary that you saw gave you the idea for this. I love when stories like that are connected. I was a big fan of this show on HBO called Taxi Cab Confessions. That was big when I was like in high school. And it was really weird because there was one episode that was talking about a guy that he was a medic in New York City and some of the things that he had seen.
Yeah.
I remember watching one of my all-time favorite shows was Homicide: Life on the Streets. And there was an episode where I was like, hey, that's like the story that guy, that medic shared in that episode of Taxi Cab Confessions. And sure enough, the behind the scenes showed how he came up with it. And the guy the guy that wrote it had watched that episode of Taxi Cab Confessions and went, man, that would make for a really good and powerful episode. And sure enough, it did. Like it was a great episode. So you saying that you watching that kind of sparked all of this. It really piques my interest because, it's just inspiring art, which is what everything is to me. So let's go back to what this is. What exactly is Mad Dog Morgan?
Yes. So Mad Dog Morgan, at its core, it's a 160-page graphic novel that details the story of Mitchell Mad Dog Morgan, right? Who's a burned out indie wrestler, never made it to the big arena. He has become an alcoholic. His life seems to be riddled with just bad choices. He decides to go drink himself to death. So he wanders into what he thinks is an abandoned house to end his life. And it turns out he's actually entered into a haunted house, a house that lures in people who are at the bottom of their life, who have nowhere to go. And then it tortures them and converts them into these horrifying monsters that fill the halls of the house. It feasts on the lost and the broken. And Mad Dog, when gets into this house and there's this TV. It starts playing all his past choices on it, and it's trying to break him down. He begins to discover that all the failures of his life only led him to this moment, right? Because the house can only ever be seen by someone who it allows. And so the only way to ever get here is to be broken. And he realized that all these failures actually were leading him to the main event of his life, which was to do battle with this house and to free all the souls that are trapped inside it. So it's a man redeeming his life. It's sort of near the end of it, or at least it feels to him, right? And the arena is no longer, the big arena of the WWE. It's now the arena of this haunted house. And he's going to have to smash monsters. He's going to have to work through all these depraved creations inside the house. And he's going to have to settle his own fears and struggles. One of his struggles is that he was never able to dazzle the marks. If you're not a wrestling fan, the marks are the audience, right? And that's what it's all about, is can you pop the marks? Can you dazzle them? And he was never able to do that. He was a great athlete. He could always take a beating. That was his gift. He had a thick skull so he could get hit, but he couldn't dazzle the marks. And so he's ultimately sort of overcoming his emotional struggles through this played out in this wrestling ring of this haunted house. So there it is in the elevator pitch between floor 6 and 26.
Man, look, we were just talking about this. Adam's comic book reviews are awesome. Look at that,
Thank you,
man.
Thank you for that.
I love seeing that, dude.
Yeah. No, I'm like you, Omar. I'm somebody who has a deep love of comics, and I'm always, reading far too many of them, and
no such thing as far too many of
them. Yeah,
way too many of them.
Yeah. I'm always the kind of guy who, I'm a creator myself, but I've always kind of like, what's Rick Remender reading? What's Ryan Otley reading? I wished more creators were posting the other things they loved, like it dug that like Tom Cruise just showed up to Sinners, to the premiere, and is just like, hey, you guys should go see this film, no connection to it. Just like, I'm in it for the love of the game. And so anyway, so I do quite a bit of reviews because I love it too.
You're right. You're absolutely right. I think the world would benefit from what creators are reading, but honestly, some of them, I don't know. I talk to Colin Bunn at least once or twice a year, and I don't think that man.
Call him.
Yeah. Okay. So he doesn't sleep. He ain't got time to play all those role playing games he collects. So I know he ain't reading anything. It's just like,
I know. This is exactly right. You're like, Colin, you only write, you don't read, and he's got that now horror podcast that he's doing, of the crazy places. It's like,
tell me about that.
I know. Yeah. I mean, he's kind of a mad genius himself, but I'd be curious. Ram V started doing a few of them, just like posting on X, just like, hey, here's books that I'm reading and I like that I'm not connected to. And I think Chip Zdarsky, do you ever get his newsletter that's in comic shops?
My wife loves his newsletter. My wife loves Chip Zdarsky. So yes, I get told all about what he's reading. And he's actually, she is heartbroken because I think, he's ending something, she told me. I was kind of happy.
He might be ending it. I hear him talk about it, because it takes so much time for him to do that. And his wife is always like, Chip, are you making any money at this? Chip, are you making any money?
But it's funny, right? And that goes a long way.
I know. It's such a cool thing, I think, his newsletter, because it's like, this is a top tier creator who's like pimping other people's stuff, bolstering the community in a really meaningful way. And I think that's what's so cool about comics. We were just talking about New York Comic Con before we jumped on, and it's like, what's cool is that you're there with other people who dig it, right? And like, even at the top level with Chip, he's still a fan tucked inside of him. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I know Ann Nocenti was there, and that's like his favorite Daredevil writer. So it's one of those things that I think is very important to talk about too. It's like, what are other people reading? Because I think the industry could really benefit from each other like that. Yeah. But so if you're a fan of Adam's reviews, we were just talking about that before we came out. Yeah, I did. I've interviewed Chip quite a number of times, and one time I told him he's pretty funny. He's a pretty funny guy.
Yes, I'm being funny.
I love that guy. So Adam, what have you worked on? You said you have worked in different things across the board almost. Where have people seen your work?
So in comic books, I did a book called The Eighth, which was an 8-issue run. I did the Eighth, another horror book called The Kill Journal. I did another sort of kids and a YA book called Kids and Monsters. And my most book that probably most people saw me about, at least got sold the most issues, so I can maybe. I did this book called The Exiled that Wesley Snipes and I wrote together. He and I created together.
Okay. Yeah. How did that come about? You said,
yeah,
you and Wesley Snipes, like, you're good friends. Like, how did that happen?
So he was going in to do some voiceover recording at a buddy of mine's VO booth, who does a lot of games work. He did all the Call of Duty games, and Wes was doing another video game voiceover, and Wes and he got talking about comics, and one thing led to another. Is Wes was like, I'd love to do another comic book, and then he brought me into the conversation. My buddy did. His name is Keith Aram, and then the three of us all started talking about doing comics. And then sure enough, there we are, and I'm getting notes from Blade himself, and
yes, Blade.
It's a different ride. I mean, when you get a note from Wesley, it's not like a ride from a note from an editor. This is the real deal. And it's amazing. Sometimes you turn in a script and he'd just be like, groovy, and like, okay, you did it, and so. And he's just his history in the film industry is just mind blowing, right? And what an incredible talent. And he was just so lovely and approachable. And, he was very good. He posted on his channels about it. He even came on a couple of comic historian, bless, God rest his soul. He came on, did a stream with me with comic historian, with Benny, who was so great. And,
he was for the comic book industry, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. No, it pained me a ton. That pained me a ton. It's sad because, anyways, Benny and I had done a lot of stuff. Anyways, just very sad. But not to get it too depressed. But so Wes and I were just pipping the book, and when it ended up going out through massive publishing. At the time it was called Whatnot. Remember when Whatnot was kind of being a publisher, and so anyways, we had a great run there with that. And it's still you can get the trade in bookstores all around, and so that was, I think, probably my most noted book. And this is my follow-up here. This is being published by the Lab Press, but we're doing a crowdfunder, or I should say I'm leading the charge on this crowdfunder, because I wanted to do something, because I've crowdfunded a lot of books before getting them into publication, and I love that, and the fans have always kind of given so much to me. And so we wanted to do something special that had a special edition cover, that had a special ash can. This is the New York Comic-Con exclusive.
Yeah, I love ash cans. It brings me back to my childhood of trying to get as many as I could.
That's exactly right. And this one, we even did it, 8x5 by 5.5 in black and white, so it was the real deal, what you felt like. It's the 16 pages. This was at New York Comic-Con, and it's for everybody who backed in the first 48 hours, and then for everybody who backs at the high tier. And then, we did an exclusive cover. We did this epic foil print. And then we built a shirt, did all the fun things to make, backing it and getting on early a cool thing. And so
you already had some physical things. A lot of people that go into crowdfunding are, here's all the things you can get afterwards. So some money has already been spent kind of promoting the Kickstarter, which is very rare. See, what did you have there, Adam? Just out of curiosity.
So this became the cover, of the book. There's a new design for it, but this was the original art that became the cover of it. That's the campaign exclusive. And for me, Omar, I went all in. I finished the whole book. I did all 160 pages. Paid for the art myself and the coloring before the lab joined. This is the foil print that's coming out. This is Maxi Dallo on art and Mike Spicer on colors. Love Mike. He's done a lot of books with me.
Oh, yeah. Great.
But these are some of the pages, as Mad Dog gets deeper into the house and more of the discovery of the horror of it, he gets lower and lower, and the house starts to become a bit more like a dark, evil castle. Here's one of the monsters inside of the house. Love Patricio Del Pesce. He's been coloring Void Rivals for quite a while. Yeah. You can see, this is that TV set I was talking about inside that he's just playing the background of his life, his stories. And it starts out by opening to these different movies that you've seen before, but playing them in perverse ways.
Did Adam freeze? There you are. Okay.
I'm kind of done with those days of doing a crowdfunder where the book isn't done.
Mhm.
It's it's just such a tremendous wait time for backers, and I just I just don't want to put people through that ever again. So I pay for my books up front, I get them all done, and then I crowdfund if I'm going to do it that way. So
that's a huge gamble you're taking, but I think it's very commendable. By the way, I didn't want to interrupt you because you were on a go and you were on you were flowing, but I did enjoy your 8th book. Actually, in 2020, my wife and I reviewed it, the very first issue. I really liked it, man.
no way.
Yeah.
Oh, no way. It's
It's on the
fantastic.
channel. You go back. I'm not BSing. You can go back on the channel. My wife and I reviewed it. Really enjoyed it. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, I love that story. A tale of a math genius whose superpower is his skill at math, and that's how he manipulates to this armor. And I like this idea of somebody trying to control the world, but you can't. But the consequence for that is great. But yeah, no. So it's dude, I'm so glad you read that. Okay, so we go way back. We go way back.
Yeah. So when is this project? Rather, how long is this going to go?
Yeah. So the campaign runs just till the end of the month, right? It'll run this 30 days, and then it'll ship. Because the book is done. All the lettering, art's all complete. We're just tidying up some of the design. And so as soon as the campaign ends, it'll go straight to press, and then it will be, we say April of next year, but I'm pretty sure we'll be able to beat it. It's just with some new tariffs and some things and shipping, it's a little trickier to moving some things around, but shouldn't be a problem, but should be out to people, first of next year, and then it will be in stores mid next year. But if you back this, you are guaranteed you will get yours months before it goes in stores, because the publisher will delay the store release if there is a delay in the crowdfunded release. Okay. So that you get yours first. The publisher's committed to that to me, because I've been burned by that. I'm never doing it again. Where it's like where it needs to land safely to the backers first, and then it can be in stores. So
yeah, that has been a problem in the past with some of the big publishers, honestly. Not even small publishers, but some of the big publishers that have gone the crowdfunding way, and unfortunately have released books to retailers before the people that backed the book got them, and that kind of rubbed people the wrong way. And I don't blame them, right? Like, I'm not going to say any publishers' names, but it's happened more than. How about this? It's happened more than it should have happened, because it doesn't seem fair. I know everybody's got to get their money, and I get it, but it seems like you have to prioritize with the people that actually backed your project and believed in you before the retailers.
Totally. And sometimes they can be out of sync. Like what happened to me on the Wesley book is because I had made the book independent and had a pathway, and the publisher had their own pathway. And we fell behind on art and some other things. So there's a bit of us, but because we were out of sync, it didn't originate from a publisher, like with Boom, with Berserker, you can be like, bro, you controlled the whole package. But I think that I agree with you. It's a shame. And so I'm vowed to never repeat that, because I'm really grateful for people who pony up and back books. It's cool, and those people should be treated with pretty good respect. So, I'm
glad you're gonna. You already have pre-produced books. I think it goes it goes a long way. I mean, and because people hear nightmare stories about crowdfunding. I've had several viewers that have been burned. I've been burned before, but it doesn't stop me from backing some of the projects that I like. And it's a weird, Wild West gamble sometimes out there, because Kickstarter doesn't really hold creators accountable. As I don't know, maybe the rules have changed in the last few years, but at one point it was like you are taking your money and putting it in this project. It is not on them if the project does not come through.
That's right, because essentially the way Kickstarter absolves himself from responsibility is it isn't actually a store where they're guaranteeing delivery of a product. It's an investment. Just like when you invest in anything, the investment may or may not turn out, right? Is how they protect themselves, because they obviously can't control the tens of thousands of creators on there doing stuff, you know, et cetera. You know, and I did a lot of work in the board game space. I used to direct and produce a series called Will Wheaton's Tabletop. It was a celebrity board gaming show. So we were deep into the board gaming world. Yeah, it was a good fun. It was a good run. Will and I spent a lot of time together. Love Will Wheaton. You know, the amount of like publishing and complications that can happen across the tens of thousands, they can't take responsibility, and I get it. And I get taking that risk as a backer too. It's just like, for taking that risk though, hopefully you get something out of it, is the hope. But I find myself, you know, so many comics. I've backed well over 400, you know, and I've backed over 400 books. I've read all the ones that I've gotten. I've even done some video. I even labeled my top 10. I thought the best of all the 400 was Axe Wielder John by Nick Pitara. I don't know if you read that one, but
no, I haven't read that one.
Yeah. And Nick Pitara, he's the artist who did that Manhattan Project with Hickman.
Yeah, great artist.
Yeah, great artist. Yeah.
What took you to Lab Press? How did that come about? You already got a book. You already have the story. Yeah. You are going to be determined to do this yourself. And then how did Lab Press get involved? And what's on their end to help?
Yeah, so the Lab Press, I'd finished the book, and one of the president of it, a guy named Dagan Walker, I've known in the film industry for my entire career, a good buddy. And, you know, he said, "Hey, Adam, I'm starting this comic book company, you know, a couple years ago." And so I'd finished up Mad Dog and felt like, you know what, I want to find the right home for it. So I called Dagan, I pitched the book out to him. I sent him, you know, the script and all the pages, and they fell in love with it. And it's a cool thing because I like what they do. You know, they're a unique sort of comic book publishing company. This is another one of their books, and they do these like
it's a great book.
Hardcovers. Yeah, these hardcover slipcases like this. This is one of their books about hunger, and Mad Dog will have a case like this too, except it'll have the face of the mask on one side and this monster on the other. It has a gold edge to it like this as well too, so it'll fit with the rest of their books. And that's how they, you know, that's the way they do their comics. And I loved that idea of this prestige format. And so that's kind of how it all started. And then, you know, they've been doing a good job of getting it out in the press, and, you know, because they're obviously, you know, the crowdfunder is interesting to them, but obviously also the retail side of it. So the long game, which I'm always interested too in finding, like, because you can do a book on a crowdfunder, but then it doesn't live anywhere, right? And getting it to live beyond. So the lab has been awesome. In fact, it was cool, Omar, if you can imagine, the only note they gave me when they read it was, "Adam, this needs like 10 more pages. There's pieces of this story. Like the piece of this story here we want more emotional weight out of this. I think you need some more pages to get there." And they were right. And I was paying for it out of my own pocket. So sometimes you kind of like, oh, maybe I don't, you sometimes maybe second guess yourself. But then I thought, you know what? You're 100% right. And I'm super grateful because the book is a better book as a result.
Yeah. I think it's a good match. I really like what they put out, and it helps that you already knew them, right? You're not,
lots of trust.
You're not taking a gamble on some a new publisher that really hasn't had anything out. So I think that really helps out. Now, what kind of tiers are in this particular Kickstarter?
Yeah, so there is the jabroni. And for any wrestling fan out there, you know what that is. That's what Mad Dog was, essentially a jabroni, a jobber. You know, there's the jabroni, and that's the book. You're going to get the book in this beautiful slip case like this. It'll be an epic book. It's also going to come with a foil print that will only ever be released. The cover of the book will also be exclusive to the campaign. And then there is the main event, and that's the bigger tier, and that gets you the book, a leather-bound edition of the book with a different cover. It has the house on it. It's all leather bound. It's incredibly gorgeous and thick and weighty and feels tougher than an omnibus. Could even beat up a Marvel omnibus. It's a leather bound, awesome thing with a slipcase. It'll come with the New York Comic Con exclusive ash can, which were ultra rare, and I literally blitzed out of every single one I brought to the con in like I could, 5 minutes gone. But we have a good pile saved for backers. So the main event gets you that. It gets you the hardcover with the leather bound hardcover. It gets you the Hell's Cannonball T-shirt. As well, it gets you a signed edition of the foil print. Also, your ash can will be signed. So it's the upgraded experience. You'll have a more memorable book. You'll get the whole package, and there's also everything's add-ons as well. So if you just want to get the regular book and then add on the T-shirt, you can do that too.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was hoping, man. You got all of them, dude. Okay. Just come clean. Sometimes whenever I do crowdfunded interviews, some people have no idea what's even available, what the different tiers are. They're like, I think we're gonna try to get it printed like this. Yeah.
No, I like having the tiers simple. Okay, is the main event edition going to have a larger trim size than the candy ass version, or is it just the leather cover and slipcase edition? I see what you're saying. Is it an oversized print?
It's bigger. Yeah.
Yeah, it is an oversized. That's correct. I mean, the regular edition is already, much bigger than a traditional trade paperback. You know what I mean? If you here's a standard size comic, it's already a bigger edition. But sometimes they call it master sized edition. So it's not like an artist size or a treasury, which is 14 inches. It's more like 12 and a half, 13 inches, I think is what that comes into the master edition. If I'm not, don't bet money on what I just said on the inches, but it's what they call the master edition, and it will be a larger size and this leather bound setup of it. So it's still and I for me, I'm somebody who loves leather bound. I wish they weren't so darn expensive to print, as you can see the price difference. But that's the sort of the two options with it, and I think it's an easy thing to jump into, and no matter what you back out of it, you're gonna have something legendary that can live on your coffee table, that you'll be able to read in a large, immersive format that will always live with you. And this story has, I think, Maxie's best art that he's ever done. I think it's my best story, and it's an incredible ride. It's all the things you want in a great comic. So it will be an improvement from the candy ass version, as you say.
Man, okay. There is your answer. So what kind of projects will you be working on next? What will you be doing next? Not necessarily comics. You don't have to just take the comics, but what are you working on?
Yeah. So I was also the writer and showrunner and director for a series called Escape the Night, which is a fantasy horror series. It ran 4 seasons. And that, may be finding its way back onto the screen, not to jinx myself. But another thing I'm working on is I've got to be partnering up with Nick Pitara on a project. I've also got something with Josh Howard from Dead at 17, that amazing creator. I don't know if you read that book. And then I've been dying to team up with an artist named Patrick Piazzalunga. He did Monsters Are My Business with Cullen Bunn, as you mentioned there. He's also doing this Gunpowder Profits with Justin Jordan, this book on Mad Cave.
Oh, yeah, that book is awesome.
Yeah, it's so great. It's so great. I got original art from him. It was awesome. He and I have bone talking for a while. He's an Italian artist, and but so those are what's cooking. Also, I have another the Jawbone Death, my book, my motorcycle mayhem book. It's gonna, we're gonna do an oversized drop. That's gonna be 90 pages. It'll be coming up shortly. I started out doing issue 1, and then I crowdfunded issue 1, and then through a publisher, we're just gonna go straight to a 90-page one shot. And so, but without revealing too many details that I can't. But that's what's up next. But this is a good ride to get on, Mad Dog Morgan. Are you a wrestling fan, Omar? Are you? It sounds like you know Jake the Snake. You have a wrestling history.
I used to watch wrestling when I was a kid. From I think probably the biggest years that I watched wrestling was 1987 to about 1995, 96. Right before they changed over to like when I went to WWE. It was to me it was always WWF. I was a huge fan. I think there's definitely that culture there with comic books, right? Like comic books and wrestling kind of go together. You have these outrageous over the top outfits with ridiculous soap opera type of stories. I mean, that's comics.
That's right. It's comics. I know it really is. And I love that.
This is my opportunity to tell your Eric Snow story. He lives. I think he lives in Louisville, Kentucky, where I frequent, or where I would frequent one of the comic book stores, and he's a big comic book guy. Or not Eric Snow, Al Snow. And he would walk around with like the mannequin head, like legit in downtown Louisville, Kentucky. I was friends with my buddy John Pat. His sister was Miss Elizabeth, and I never got to meet Macho Man. Like I always wanted to. Because Macho Man,
that's a legend.
Ultimate Warrior and Macho Man to me were like that was like that, and that was it. Those guys and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. I always loved that guy too. But those guys, like I never got to see, but I did get to see Miss Elizabeth a couple times. I mean, she was gorgeous, and it's a damn shame what ended up happening. It's a damn shame what ended up happening to a lot of these wrestlers, honestly.
No, that's the truth. Yeah, it's the truth. Yeah, Logan, to answer your question, I'm definitely a Bret guy. There's no question. Okay. Bret Hart for sure. And I think, as far as all-time favorites, I kind of like think like, there's because you can never overcome the wrestler of your childhood. Like you never love the one today that you loved then, in the same way. Like, when I was a child, I think there's a couple that stuck with you the most. I mean, first of all, it was The Undertaker was deep in my heart, and Netflix had called me to write something that involved him, and ultimately it didn't end up going through, but it was like I was on the cusp of true dreamdom. So I think he was my single favorite from the childhood days. I also love the Texas Tornado. I love Ultimate Warrior. I love Bret Hart.
Yeah, man.
You remember? Yeah. It's just like I love Superfly, Jimmy Snuka. I loved those guys. But I think The Undertaker, was just sort of the one who stood with me, but just because he was such this foreboding presence, and what a talent, and still in the game, as crazy as that is. And I mean, I think like right now, like if I say right now, like flash forward, obviously on the lady side, I love Rhea Ripley because she's just sort of tearing the world up.
Amazing. Yes.
Beautiful and crazy, and like what she's doing in the ring. I don't keep up with wrestling.
I do keep up with some clips that come through my feed from time to time.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean,
so I know who's pretty popular, and you're
gonna know her.
Yeah, she's huge, man.
She's huge. And I think, and then I think on the men's side, because just when I was a kid, I wasn't tracking any of the ladies, so I don't have any memory there. But like on the men's side, I love Seth Rollins. I love Roman Reigns. I think those two that kind of sit with me the most. What I love about Seth is he's like a little bit of a heel and a face in one. But I think those are the ones that hang with me. I mean, there's AEW has some interesting things too. I'm not as dialed in there. But I have enjoyed some of their matches. Their lady street fights are, I mean, they're so wild. But yeah, that's where my heart's at there, Logan.
This is true.
Io Sky. And you're saying Io Sky versus Bianca Belair. I mean, that's a tough because I love both those ladies. I mean, I think I like Io Sky because she's so wild, in the ring. If you're not familiar, she's just over the top. She comes from the Asian wrestling market, and just, anyways, I like her.
Man, it's really cool that you still keep up with everything. And I was looking through the art that my buddy Chris Yates sent my way of this, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of the energy that I see in like Daniel Warren Johnson, right? Basically because of like things like do a power bomb. Like the art is legit. Is that original art that you have? Or
yeah, these aren't the original pages. These are the TIFFs I printed out so I could show people because I like to show you that it's done.
Go ahead.
I do have some pages, but yeah. So these are the lines here, and definitely, he has that James Herron, Daniel Warren Johnson that sort of manga meets Western comics styling, right?
Huge,
He does, yeah, huge, which to me is the best because I think it's the best it's ever been. I could not be happier with this modern styling. The mixing of these worlds, it's kind of like, it feels very Otomo influenced, you know what I mean? And versus maybe when I say Eastern comics, it's more Otomo and less like maybe Demon Slayer, but you can just see what he's doing here. All, not only the incredible use of speed lines, but also the incredible drama that Maxi can bring to it, which I think is part of Daniel and James' magic as well too, that they know how to sell it with the eyes. They know how to give you the emotion you need. Just look at this panel here. This is where he's telling this girl, she lives across the street from the house, that he's going to go kick the house's ass, and the way he does it with the posing and the way the composition is put together, very cinematic. And then just these eyes, how he sells it in the eyes, right? Is something else. And I love, I really, big mad love for both Daniel and James. Their art style is just insane. And I love, to see that eyeball, the way he does that. So cool. It makes it feel so alive. And I think that, there's nothing wrong with the mixing of these two worlds, because I think that both Eastern and Western comics, need to, or should be best friends.
Oh, yeah. Well said. Well said. What are your thoughts on the movie, The Devil's Kiss?
Movies, The Devil's. I've not seen the film, which is now it's insulting. Neither one of us have seen it. Sorry, that's a bummer.
I haven't seen that. Oh, so you are a huge fan of wrestling, and I see behind. I couldn't help but notice, just out of curiosity, behind you. Of course, I see the Chucky doll, and above that, though, are those the Akira hardcovers?
Yes, those are the Akira hardcovers. These are, I think you're probably going. Yeah, these the hardcover edition. They released it after the 35-year anniversary.
Sean, thank you so much. He means the wrestling move Devil's Kill. That's what he meant.
I was like, the Devil's Kiss.
Devil's Kiss. Damn it! No, I can't spell and I can't read. All right.
I'm like, I don't know what's happening.
Okay.
No. Yeah. So okay. That's why I was like, I miss, like, when you said the move, I thought you were saying movie. I miss it. Yeah. Oh, Stephanie McQueer's like the Devil's Kiss. I mean, it's without a doubt the sexiest move in wrestling. It's like provocative. It's like violent. There's nothing quite like it. So Stephanie McQueer, she's this amazing, Latin wrestler. She's so incredible, and she does this thing where she puts the move. She puts her head in between her knees.
No, but now I gotta Google it.
You gotta Google it. Just make sure it's quite the move. So yes, I don't think anybody who like when she starts doing it and slamming their head into the ground, it's like the crowd just goes utterly insane. Yeah, it's like probably one of the most exciting signature moves right now. I mean, but these books though, right, Omar? God, when you think about Otomo delivering these pages, I mean, I think without a doubt, I think it's, this is the top 5 greatest comics of all time. That includes Eastern and Western books. I mean, it's like, this is as good as it gets.
It's a masterpiece. Which blows my mind that we still don't have, Memories or Domu over here or anything else that he's worked on. Like, how is it that it's only Akira and always Akira and nothing else? Like, it's just insane that, we live in a time when I don't think manga has ever been as popular, either old or new stuff that they're cranking out. And it's like all these, not just his stuff, but also like Masamune Shiro's stuff that has never been translated here, or even bringing back some of his old stuff like Appleseed and things like that. Like that really set the way for cyberpunk here in America. Yeah.
I know. I just went because I just got all the trades for Masamune Appleseed, right, and just read them. And I had to search on eBay. It's just so good, right? God, Masamune Shiro is like that, and Ghost in the Shell. I mean, these are. Mm-hmm. You don't ever watch if you haven't seen it, don't ever watch the Ghost in the Shell movie, the live action one. You should just pretend that never happened. That's a definitely pretend never happened.
No, I don't. I think
But the books are so good. But yeah, I agree with you. I had to find them on eBay. It's like, how is Appleseed not available?
Yeah, long out of print. Yeah,
It's crazy.
Yeah, I have never seen the Ghost in the Shell movie. I did see the Dragon Ball movie because we were doing a review of it. It was it was painful. It was painful to watch. The Speed Racer was pretty fun. I like that one.
No, I didn't think Speed Racer was bad. I didn't think it was bad, but Ghost in the Shell, that was a tough one. It's like you watch it and you're like, I'm not you watch it, you're like, they clearly didn't read the comic book. They just
oh yeah. Most of those people making movies absolutely have no love for any of it.
Never read it. It's like, right? And they cast an unusual actress because they cast Scarlett Johansson when really the sergeant, she's like crude and funny and like in your face and like sometimes silly, and like Scarlett Johansson's like a stoic.
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't have missed that mark. Nothing wrong with Scarlett Johansson. She's just not, there isn't just nothing about her. Bato, the cat's a great actor, but it's like,
I've never seen it. Who did they cast? Just out of curiosity. I don't know.
He was from Game of Thrones. He was that prince that came in later in Game of Thrones. I forget the actor's name. Great actor, but he's my size, right? And Bato needs to be the size of the mountains, right?
Yeah.
He's a huge guy. And he's
Battle Angel Alita. I did like that movie.
The Rodriguez one.
Yeah, I thought that was an excellent adaptation of the anime. Manga.
Hats off to Rodriguez, because I thought his Sin City was amazing. His Sin City Hard Goodbye was amazing, and then his Battle Angel Alita. Like, he read the comics. He read
absolutely. Yeah.
Like, you can debate whether maybe you like this or that, like, but that guy was authentic, and whether to the core. So
let's see. Taika Waititi was trying to make an Akira movie for a while. I don't think that's happened. I think he's still working on the Incal, or maybe, I don't know. But Incal's gonna be another one that's hard to translate into film too.
Incal, I know. I mean, I love that. I mean, Mobius and Jodorowsky's masterpiece. It's incredible. I'm pretty grateful though that Taika Waititi is not doing Akira, not because I don't like him. I think Jojo Rabbit is an amazing film. He's just not Otomo. I just don't know that there's a high probability that he would be able to give us the magic that is Akira. And so I'm cool. Yeah, it's like, especially because it's like after
it's such a staple of like pop culture too. Because even people that don't even know anime know the bike slide, because that has been
the bike slide
mimicked in so many different books and series and posters, album covers. It's crazy. Yeah.
And there'd be one thing if Otomo was going to be like writing the script or producing alongside him, you'd feel different, but when it's just like, it makes you start feeling like you have this Cowboy Bebop flashback where they just take that and Netflix just takes that show, cuts the creator out. You end up with something unwatchable and you're like, I don't get it, because you paid millions of dollars for those rights. And then you just said, okay, cool. Now let's change everything. It's just like, I don't know why you would do that.
I watched, I think, about 2 minutes of that show. I was in the middle of editing a video. My wife was watching it in the background, and I just needed something, to be around people and while editing and focusing on editing. And I heard some of the dialogue, and I'm like, well, that's enough for me. So I went to the other room, and it's like, I can't do it. Like,
I know you're gonna ruin it.
Because I think sometimes things are just so special to you, right? They mean something to you. So you almost feel like you own them. And when something like that happens, it's like, how dare you take something that I love and turn it into this? It's almost like it's an insult to you.
It gets you. I remember when they made, when Gavin Hood made the Wolverine movie and called it Weapon X, right?
Oh yeah.
Which, compared to Barry Windsor Smith's Weapon X, which I think is the greatest Marvel comic ever made, it was very hard for me to endure that movie. That was real hard to sit through that film and just watch. So now you have like this bad memory tucked into this like perfect memory, and then you have like this bad feeling tucked in there, and you're like, I hate that.
I don't know why, but I think about that when they do like movies that are based on wrestlers or TV shows, that you almost have to cast the right person, because they're not only just playing the wrestler, but they're also playing that personality. Like they're playing the person, and then they have to play the personality. So you almost have to like cast the right person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen Aeon Flux. I remember the show, what was, Peter Chung's show on Liquid Television, and that was mind blowing back then. But I didn't know, I didn't watch the live action movie. He did do an anime.
Yeah.
What was his anime called? He was like the lead director on this anime called Rain. That's what it was. It was called Rain. Reign. But yeah, I've never seen the movie either. I don't even know who's in Aeon Flux.
It's Charlize Theron.
Really? Oh,
yeah. Okay. Charlize Theron is Aeon. Yeah, it's a tough one too. That's a you don't need to. It's best that you. That's a one that is just best. You just kind of just dodge right around that. Once again, Charlize Theron, amazing. She's an amazing talent. But you just dodge right around that one. You just go, whoosh, and you're much happier.
No, everybody's got to eat, man. You got to get a check. So I get it. You got to take roles sometimes, and you're like, well, I'll do it. Sure, that sounds interesting.
And I can see, and an actor can get sold, because an actor is only responsible for their performance, right? And they haven't, and when they sign on, they haven't seen the scripts or the costume. They've seen the scripts, they haven't seen the sets or the costumes. They don't know how the director is going to shoot it or direct the other actors. They're taking a big risk on the director, right? Like, are you going to lead me somewhere? And so there's a little forgiveness for the talent because they don't necessarily know all the pieces of the story. There's a lot less forgiveness for the director and the studio because they saw all the pieces and then they just butchered it. It's but
it always makes me worry too when the creator turns out to be like a producer. And sometimes I think maybe the creator just took some money and was like, yeah, you can put my name on the thing. That's fine. Approved. Because I have been burned by adaptations on TV shows and movies of comic books in the past that I'm like, that totally was nothing like the book or nothing like the way the message was.
Did you see the remake of The Crow they recently did?
No, I didn't.
It's best that you don't either as well too, because it's like James Labar said, hey, like I feel I'm really behind this movie, and you see the film and you're like, James, like this isn't. I love that comic. The original comic is a masterpiece. The original film with Brandon Lee is a masterpiece. It still holds up. It's like, and then you're like, James, you can't really be excited about this, but I know you need to eat, and so. Sometimes you got to say, I think this is great when you know it ain't. And I get it. I can't hold that against him. But yeah. It's just so not reflective of the comic book. It's crazy.
I heard, okay, so the way they pitched it was it's going to be the closest to the comic book than the previous movies. Which I thought, okay, cool. It still looks awful. Like I saw the trailer and I'm like, I'm just gonna dodge that one. Not
and Skarsgård is an amazing talent. Bill, the actor they got. His movie Boy Kills World, amazing. It was really, especially because the Brandon Lee one has been immortalized with his death. And was such a work.
That soundtrack is amazing in that movie to this day too. Like that soundtrack, man, was so good.
No, I know. It spawned 3 sequels. It's a masterpiece. So anyway, that's a tough hill to climb, and sometimes they don't get there. But yes, but bringing it back around to the Mad Dog Morgan of it all is one thing I have loved about making that I love about making comics and I love about this book is that Maxie the artist really. Not only delivered these spectacular pages, but he, was delivering these pages while his wife was pregnant and giving birth. And this was how he was paying his rent at that time. And so there is this sort of emotion, because the emotion of that life, if you've ever had children, at the time, like all those feelings that come around it, got poured into these pages. And, I've done 3 books and this one, I think, there was a new appreciation. It was like a new level of art, that had happened. And I think in some ways, like, in this story that's just really gripping story that's going to push him to the limit. My artist was getting pushed to the limit in his own life, right? And it came out in the inks. And there's something really special about that. I think with any kind of story that like there is that personal, blood and sweat in it. And this book has that. And I hopefully you'll feel it. If you back it and you read it, hopefully you feel that.
Now, that is a good pitch, man. Okay, before we end today.
Yep.
You have done a lot. You read a lot. You watch a lot, which is amazing. I love that. What kind of advice do you give somebody that wants to write comic books and see somebody like you that's like, you love being entertained as well as creating something that will entertain others? And I think there's something commendable to be said about that, because it is really difficult to be a creator when you also like to be entertained. Like, you get distracted. Yeah. So what kind of advice would you give a writer or somebody that's trying to become a writer? Like, what are some of the things you do to focus on only writing?
Yeah. So there's three things I would give you for comic book writing in particular. And listen, I'm not Scott Snyder. I can only tell you what I know. But I've certainly written a lot of television that's been produced and on air and movies. But what I would say is that the first thing is I would say about it is you're not writing enough. However many hours a week you're spending writing, you're not writing enough. And what I mean by that is you want to be rewriting and writing and sitting in the lab on your craft. That I can't overemphasize that enough is that I've backed all, more than 400 crowdfunded books, almost all of them, the art worked, maybe about 20% of them, the writing worked. Understanding the pacing and the rhythm of a comic book, or if you're writing film or TV, understanding that pacing and rhythm and knowing only the exact amount of words you need instead of excess words. Particularly when it comes to the dialogue or the narration, only the exact amount of words. Your book becomes more powerful the less you say. It just becomes weaker and weaker the more words you shove in your pages, unless you're Alan Moore, because you can shove in the most perfect words probably ever written in American comics. But for the rest of us, you want to try to stick in as little as possible. 2, I recommend lettering your own books. The reason why is you may not become Russ Wooten, who I think is a fabulous letterer, or Nate Picos, who's amazing, but you will learn how your words land on the page, because in a comic book, unlike a film, they're not spoken, they are seen, and how they fit inside of panels is part of the way you tell the story. Panels shoved full of words, or understanding the rhythm of how something is visually seen in your words, because they're reading it, but they're not reading it like a book where it's always the same prose lines. How you stage it, the emphasis you give it, the bolding, the different font choices you use to try to train your brain so that when you are writing something, you are seeing it living on a panel versus in a Word document. And then my last thing is great stories are always edited, but they are unfiltered. So there's a big difference between learning those two things. Edited things are refined and improved because you've sought notes and insight from not only from yourself, from friends, but for people who who share your vision for it and are helping you get what you want out of it, right? That lots of times you're in your own way when writing. You have inherent weaknesses as a creator. Everyone has them, even the best. And you need to try and find the people and things that can get you so that you can edit your work appropriately, so you get out of your own way. And then by saying unfiltered, meaning you want to tell your story fearlessly. Tatsuki Fujimoto, I think, is one of the most fearless storytellers in comic books. He is a fearless storyteller. He is unfiltered. He is not unedited, but he is unfiltered. And you feel that. You're like, this is Tatsuki's. He gave me everything he wanted to give, but he refined it to give it to you. So that I'll leave it at that before it becomes too big of a college class. But It's always awesome to chat with you, Omar, because I love your passion for comics.
Oh, dude, thank you so much, Adam. So I'm a fan of your work, and I'm glad you were able to stop by here. And holy crap, that was a great answer, dude. You should maybe you thought about teaching college courses. Just saying, that's pretty inspirational. Just for that quick little, hey, what kind of quick advice would you give? But seriously, thank you for coming over, visiting us. It's been my pleasure to talk to you. Go and check out, it's in the description of the video if you're watching this later, the Kickstarter for Mad Dog Morgan. There's 23 days to go as of this video. So check it out. Look at the artwork. Look at the different tiers. See what's good for you. And that was it, everybody. Stay healthy and safe out there. We are out of here. Thank you again, Adam.
Boom. Thank you, Omar.
Dude, it was my pleasure.